Can you buy and sell a house at the same time? Well, of course the answer is yes, but it might not be as easy as you think it is. Hi, I'm Lydia Rowe, a realtor here in the Dayton area, and on this channel I love to talk about all things living in the Miami Valley of Ohio. Today we're talking about the intricacies of if you need to buy and sell a house at the same time. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, or just looking for a change of scenery, I've got you covered with some expert tips and tricks to smooth out the process. So let's get started. First things first, let's talk about the housing market. In the majority of the Dayton area at the time of this recording, we're still pretty heavy in a seller's market. Now, as a realtor, I know I'm biased, but I don't understand why giving an expert you trust a call isn't the first step in the process. A lot of times people put off calling a realtor or a lender until they're closer to being ready, but I highly recommend calling earlier in the process. Why? I understand the market right now. I'm constantly studying trends and looking at statistics and seeing what sells and what doesn't, and what offers get accepted and what gets rejected. This is all pretty good info to have at your fingertips when preparing to buy and sell at the same time. I also know the most important things to pay attention to when prepping your house for sale and what could be a waste of time and money. More about that in a bit. So understanding the current market is super important when you are buying and selling at the same time because it greatly affects timing and strategy on both sides. If you're more in a buyer's market, for example, you will want to put your house on the market sooner, knowing it could take a few months to sell. If you know that you're in a seller's market, you have the luxury of waiting a bit, knowing that it's likely to sell quickly. You also have to be realistic in understanding whether the current market allows for a contingency on the sale of your house. You can make an offer on your new house contingent on the selling of your current one. But if you're in a seller's market, the likelihood of a seller accepting that offer is very slim, unless you're willing to give on something else major like the selling price or waiving other contingencies like inspection, which is super risky. Finding your next house could take a while, but the worst thing is when you finally find that house that you want, but you aren't actually ready to buy it because you didn't prep ahead and look at all the options. I'd love to help you avoid that situation. So there are two major pieces of information you need to find out if you're going to be successful in buying and selling at the same time. And you really need professionals to evaluate both of these things. First is, how much is your current house worth? What is a realistic expected price and time frame? This will usually be a range depending on the market, the current condition of your home, what updates have been done, and what is left to do. What are you willing to do and what you aren't? Keep in mind too that although inventory is still low as of now, many buyers are asking for concessions and help with their closing costs, and they are certainly asking you to address defects after inspections. There were seasons in the last few years where we didn't see any of this, so it's important to understand this when you are evaluating your bottom line and what you expect to walk away with. Typically in the Dayton area, sellers are paying between 5.5 and 7% commission to real estate agents as well. Your contract with your realtor is always negotiable, of course. Your realtor can provide you with some hypothetical net sheets based on different price points and concessions, so you can have a good idea of what will actually be on the check after you take all of the expenses out on closing day. Now, you might be tempted to try to go it alone and save yourself the commission percentage, and you're more than welcome to do that. But you should know up front that statistically, when you list with a realtor, you end up selling for at least 6% more anyways, so generally it does pay for itself. And it's hard to put a price tag on expertise and saving your brain some stress and anxiety. Also important to keep in mind, since you're buying and selling at the same time, you're gonna likely pay commissions on the seller side, but as a buyer, your agent's commission is usually paid for through the seller's agent. This can get super complicated, and there's actually a few lawsuits out there happening right now around agent commissions, but I can tell you right now that so much of it is just semantics, and if change is coming, it's probably gonna take a little bit of time for that to occur. If you wanna know more about this, you can watch this video next, but what is important right now is knowing that your bottom line, your net profit as a seller, because that's gonna help you know what you can afford with your next house. The other important information you need a professional for is finances. Let's talk money, folks. If you're not sitting on a pile of cash, and let's be honest, who is? You might want to consider options like bridge loans or a home equity line of credit, or HELOC. These can be handy, but they come with their own playbook. Higher interest rates, shorter loan terms, there's a lot to consider. It's like a financial bridge from your current home to your dream home, but you need to cross it carefully. Right now, trying to get a seller to accept an offer contingent on the selling of your home is actually really unlikely. So talking to a loan officer to find out what you can do in order to be able to make a non-contingent offer is important and can take some time. The timing can also be tricky. You can get a HELOC to cash in on the current equity that you have in your home and plan to sell. However, HELOCs make their money over time, so some lenders won't be willing to give a HELOC if they know that you're planning on selling. Or if they do, there's usually at least an early payoff fee of like $300 to $500, which isn't a huge deal, but it's good to know. HELOCs also take 25 to 30 days to close, usually, so you do want to do that before you make an offer on your next home if possible. What's great about HELOCs is that they have no closing costs and you don't have to use them unless you need it. You don't pay anything on a HELOC unless you use it. Having a HELOC is also very nice as you're prepping for the sale of your house. Most houses could use some updating and repairs, and you'll always get the most out of your home if you make those updates and repairs before putting your house on the market. This is another area where having a real estate advisor is key, because there's some updates and repairs that have a greater ROI or return on investment than others. Another way to be able to put in a non-contingent offer on your next home before you sell your current one is to secure a bridge loan. Whether you qualify for this depends a lot on your debt to income ratio. If you qualify, essentially it's going to cost you between $1,500 and $2,500 in additional closing costs in order to be able to go non-contingent and secure that house that you want. You have the cost of the appraisal on your current house and the one that you're buying, plus some closing fees. Many times though, you don't even need to use that bridge loan. If you end up selling your current house before closing on the new one, you don't even have to use it. So in that case, you're only out the cost of the appraisal on your current house. Many folks shy away from bridge loans because of the higher rates, but it's important to remember that this is a temporary situation. It's just a short-term solution to get you into the home that you want. So something else to keep in mind, anytime that you do use a HELOC or a bridge loan, but you want to use the profits from the sale of your current home to put down on your house once it sells, it's important to make sure that your loan allows for what is called recasting. This usually costs $150 to $300, but you're able to put additional money down after you've already closed, and they will recast and re-amortize your loan and payments without having to refinance the entire loan. So you're able to go non-contingent and secure your new home before you sell your current one, but then after you sell your current one, you can take however much of that profit and you can pay down your new loan and reduce the amount on your monthly payments. Maybe you aren't able to put very much down until you sell your home, and that caused your payment to be high because you needed private mortgage insurance or PMI. But after you sell your house, you're able to put down that 20% needed to take that PMI off. So this is not by any means my area of expertise, but I can certainly point you in the right direction of some lenders who can look at all the options for you. I just greatly advise not waiting to look into this until you find your house. Then it could be too late and you can miss getting the house you want because you weren't ready to put a non-contingent offer down. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you may not have the option of going non-contingent. In that case, there are some creative ways to make your offer appealing to a seller, but there's going to be risk on your side too. On the buying side, you need to understand the risk a seller takes when they accept an offer that's contingent on the sale of another house. Their house is off the market, but their days on the market clock is still ticking. If you don't sell your house, their house sits on the market for a long time. If something were to fall through and they have to go back on the market, it looks really bad and their house is unlikely to sell for as much as it would have before. It's important you need to show them that you have skin in the game too. So things like more earnest money, agreeing to maybe pay their mortgage payments after a certain amount of time if it takes you longer than you think it's going to sell your house, maybe offering over asking, maybe offering a limited inspection. There are many ways to sweeten the deal for a seller if you have to make the offer contingent on the sale of your current house. All right, so now it's time to get your home ready for its close-up. This means decluttering, fixing up little imperfections, and maybe a fresh coat of paint. Think of it as setting the stage for buyers to fall in love with your place. And remember, first impressions do matter. A well-staged home can be the difference between a quick sale and a lingering listing. Now, I have a whole video on this I highly recommend. I can't tell you how important this is and what a huge difference it can make in what your house sells for and how quickly it sells. And that brings me to priorities. I know we all want to have our cake and eat it too, but that's not always possible. When it comes to selling your home, you need to communicate very clearly with your realtor what's the most important thing to you. Everyone wants the most money they can get in their sale, and the majority of people selling a home believe it's worth more than the comps support. Can I just appeal to you to let the numbers speak? They are rarely wrong. I want to sell your house for as much as I can, believe me. Everyone has seen that fluke sale, that one house that sold for way over asking or way more than comp support just because the right buyer found it. But that's not the norm. Pricing a house is tricky, and I always tell my sellers that the market speaks. When you put your house on the market, for every 8 showings, you should have an offer. If you aren't getting showings or you aren't getting offers, you're likely overpriced. Be willing to adjust. Starting out high and dropping is not always the best strategy. Many times if you go with the bottom number that you'd be happy with, you can sell a lot faster and sometimes get multiple offers. You don't want to price lower than you'd be happy with, expecting to get a bidding war going. If someone gives you a strong full price offer, you want to be happy with that. You don't want to have to pass on a full price offer, but you also don't want to throw out an extravagant number and have to drop by 20 or 50,000. People wonder what's wrong with the house. The house is scrutinized more. You want to ask, is selling for top dollar the most important thing? And are you willing to wait for just the right buyer, or is selling fast more important than price? All these things need to be considered and communicated to your realtor clearly. Telling me your bottom line numbers doesn't mean that you're going to only get that number. I am on your team. Remember, I negotiate on your behalf and I'm trying to get the best deal for you. But knowing those numbers and priorities are super helpful in negotiation and will not be disclosed to the buyers or their agents unless you expressly give that permission. One of the benefits of contracting with an agent is that fiduciary duty of confidentiality. Now, when speed is important, one thing that I recommend considering is a pre-sale inspection. Almost all buyers are going to have an inspection done prior to close. Post-inspection negotiations is where deals can fall apart. A smooth inspection makes for a much quicker closing, and the likelihood of a deal falling apart and having to go back on the market is so much smaller. If you go ahead and pay for an inspection before putting your house on the market, it ensures no surprises when the buyer has theirs, or at least it minimizes the chances. You can decide whether to address the issues found in the pre-sale inspection or just disclose them to the buyer up front. If there's a problem and you put it in the disclosures, then when the buyer puts in an offer, they've already considered that expense. They shouldn't ask for that to be addressed when it comes up on the inspection because they knew about it ahead of time. You are required to disclose what you know are defects to your home. But what about those things that you don't know about? That's where that pre-sale inspection can come in. It's a bummer all around if you find out you need to line your main drain for $10,000 or replace your roof for $14,000 or replace an electrical panel or service lines for $2,000 to $4,000. But it's a little less painful if you know that up front than if you already have that offer in hand and you think you're going to be netting a certain amount only to find out about a huge expense that's unexpected. If you do the pre-sale inspection and find out that there's some major issues and you don't have the cash to be able to address them before you sell, you can get quotes from contractors and offer to contribute to that repair at closing. And that can go a long way in still getting the most for your house and building trust with the buyer. If you want to know more about what to expect with a home inspection, watch this video next. And if you'd like a free buying or selling guide, just write that in the comments and I'll get one to you. If you're buying or selling in Tip City, Troy, West Milton, Inglewood, or any area around Dayton, feel free to reach out. Remember, every journey is unique, so it's important to work with professionals who understand your specific needs and goals. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real estate insights. Happy house hunting and selling, and I'll see you in the next video.